everybody, my name is Carol and welcome back to my channel. So a couple of months ago, I asked some of you on Instagram what are some of the things that you would want to see on this channel more, and some of you said that you would still want to see me interview people. And that made me very happy because I miss interviewing people for my work. So for today, I have one of my closest friends here in Berlin, Yuka Andree, who is a business and life coach. She has helped me so much personally and professionally and as a friend. She's done so much for me actually. And she's one of the people that I really look up to. For today, we're going to discuss something that I think is very important for a lot of expat women and their spouses as well, especially the ones who are raising children. And since I am someone who doesn't have kids yet, I thought that I would bring Yuka in to talk about raising third culture kids. So, Yuka, say hi.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Carol.
Yeah.
Hi everyone, I'm Yuka. Nice to meet you.
Yeah. First of all, I am a big fan of Yuka's daughter. I think we are really close friends. I like to think that.
For sure.
I'm a big fan of her. And even my dog is in love with her. She's the best. And I noticed that she's so confident. She's currently 5 years old and speaks 3 languages and on her way to her 4th language. And I love how she is such a good mix of you and your husband. So Yuka is Japanese and she's married to a European, and they are both expats here in Berlin. So I think it is just amazing how you are both able to impart both your cultures on her, and also she is growing up to be such a Berliner as well. So first things first, how do you do it?
Okay, it's quite a big subject, right? But I think the basic of everything is your mindset. You know, mindset is really everything. It's a navigation of your whole life and also how you do child raising, right? Meaning, I think mindset from the parents is really, really important. That, for example, for me, I believe that it is possible, right? This is the start. It is possible to have a child having 3 languages, being able to speak in all of them, and also having all different cultures taking in, and still be confident, and so on, right? So the start line is if you as a parent don't believe in it, that maybe it's now going to happen to me, it's now going to be possible for my child because of this and so reasons, then that's the start you are setting. And this is really the point, right? So for me, I didn't see any difficulties. I thought just, of course it's possible, right? That's how I started. And this is the mindset for parents. And then the other side is, in the child raising, what I think the most important is to let the child really feel and believe that they can do it, you know? Like they have the feeling, I can do it. This is really the most important thing, because if the child believes in it, they will find what they want to do and they will achieve it.
Okay.
Right? Yeah.
And how do you make sure that your daughter has that mindset?
Okay, it's in everything, in daily communication. Yeah, it's how the parent would talk to the children. Like, of course, in a simple way, you can say, yes, of course you can do it. How could we do it? Instead of like, it's maybe too difficult, maybe it wouldn't work. Rather than that, how can we make it possible? This is a way to question, like make questions to your children, and also maybe comment on even small steps achieved. Like if the child does something, like, oh, that's great, I'm really happy that you could do it. Or just acknowledging it, right? Like, you wrote this first alphabet letter, wow, you know?
But how would you deal with, let's say, of course, when learning a language, sometimes a child will make mistakes. So how would you react to it so that they are not put down to the point that they will get lazy to learn their mother's language or their father's language because they find it too difficult?
Okay, I would say make it just fun, right? So the fun is really the key factor for child raising, I believe. And if the child makes a mistake, lots of times I just laugh, you know, like, oh my god, it sounds like this, it was really funny. Of course, it depends on the child's personality and the relationship between the parent and the child. So you need to always see how the child is reacting to this. But basically, don't take it too seriously, you know. And if there's a mistake, you just, you know, you don't need to correct everything. I mean, especially my daughter, she's 5. So my mindset there is, of course, a 5-year-old would make mistakes, and that's totally normal, and I don't need to correct them, right? So sometimes I come back with a correct sentence. So that's actually, on the theory, right way to do it. Like, you don't say, hey, now you made a mistake, so and so, you should say this. This is not probably the best approach, but you just say the same thing back to your child, but in the correct grammar. So sometimes I do it too.
So, and when you say, like, when you make a joke, let's say the child makes a mistake, or instead of like laughing at them, it's more of like laughing together about it. Like, oh, it's okay. So it's more like, it's okay to make that mistake. It's fine.
I always add, oh, mommy also used to make lots of mistakes, but I'm fine now, you know. And then that's totally normal. This I also say to my daughter.
And it also adds to their confidence.
Okay.
And I think going back to mindset, because I've met a lot of couples who are from different backgrounds, and sometimes they would say, oh, I probably won't teach my child my language anymore. We'll just teach the language of my husband and English, because let's say the husband has a stronger culture compared to the mom, or vice versa. And sometimes personally I find it really sad, because the child had a chance to, you know, get to know the culture and the language of the other parent, but it's becoming more he or she is becoming more attuned to the culture of the parent with the stronger culture. So how do you make sure that you give your daughter like the best of both worlds from you and your husband, and also like see like Germany as home, but also embrace the culture here?
So it comes back to, again, the mindset. So in my mindset, there's nothing like we need to choose one or just two, right? So I would like to do everything, of course, so long as my daughter is coping with it, right? So I need to always check with it, but so far she's fine. So the way I do it is I speak in Japanese with my daughter, 99%, and my husband speaking in German with our daughter, and English is like family language, right? So that's already a setup that she is exposed to 3 languages from the beginning of her life, you know? So that's like the natural thing for her. And then culture-wise, also we mix and match. We don't just say, okay, at home we do this culture, you know, there's nothing like this. We just mix. For example, our Christmas is a European way, you know, from my husband. And yes, Christmas is European, or not the Japanese thing, so I'm totally happy about it. I'm also learning it with my family. And for example, New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, sometimes we do in a Japanese way. Or there are lots of Japanese public holidays or events, then we practice them as well. So it's really, we have lots of events and lots of themes to follow, you know. So just do as much as we can and enjoy it. It's a strategy behind, I would say.
Okay. And what about if there is a clash? Let's say there is something different about your husband's culture and your culture, and of course you have to, you know, teach that to your child. Do you just choose one, or how do you approach this?
I think it's all about communication. So let's say the different ways. Let's say breakfast, you know, in Europe you eat maybe bread, cereals, eggs, etc. In Japan you eat rice, fish, miso soup, etc. So it's totally different. And you know, I would talk to my daughter, there are different cultures in the world, and in Japan we do this, in Europe or in Germany or in this country we do this. And we are a family of mixed culture, so sometimes we can do this culture, sometimes we can do that. So this is again communication, right? You just don't dump everything on the table so that our daughter is a bit confused, but make a like show her the clear structure, like what we are doing at home. We are a family from different, like mix of different cultures. So I explained to her, this is from this culture. That is from this culture.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because then so that it doesn't get mixed up in her
Right,
head.
right, yeah.
And is it also the same in language when you are talking to her? Like she knows exactly that this is Japanese, and then with with her father, then it's a European language, and then outside, here in Berlin, she can speak German to other people, and like she speaks English to me perfectly. Right. By the way, so so she knows that when it's family time, we all speak in English. When it's Auntie Carol, it's also English. And also with Wancho, my dog, she speaks English to Wancho. Wancho understands.
True.
So is it because she is more attuned to you, like Japanese, and then Daddy is this language? But at the beginning, were you like telling her this is Japanese and this is Daddy's language?
Yeah, not naturally. I think I did. Yeah. I think other important thing is you always kind of explain what's going on. So it's like when I'm speaking to her in Japanese, on the side I say, oh, by the way, this is Japanese, mommy is from Japan, you know? And this is not that I do because it's so necessary, but it's just natural, you know, coming from me, so that the child understands what's going on, you know? Yeah. So she, in the earlier stage, she could already understand which language is which, who is speaking which language.
And you also said like make it more fun.
Yeah.
So is there a fun way for you, like teaching your culture to your daughter and also like your husband? What are some of the fun things that you do to keep it interesting for your daughter?
Okay, I've heard from other parents sometimes that the child doesn't want to learn about a certain culture from like say one parent, and it's a pity, right?
Yeah, it's such a
pity. I thought about it, and I thought, okay, let's make it just fun, you know. It's a 5-year-old, you know, or under, so I always try to make it look like fun, like, oh, you know, if you speak Japanese when you go to Japan, you can talk to your grandparents and Japanese friends, and maybe you can go to Japanese kindergarten, and you can eat this and you can see this, you know, all these, you know, fun things, just associate with fun things, right? And also there are, like you said, there are different group of friends. Like we speak in English, there are German speaking friends, and there are Japanese speaking friends. And I say, well, you know, if you speak Japanese, we can again meet up with them and do something together. And then just these are fun things for children, right? And for example, if my daughter, of course, likes to watch movies, like kids movies, and at first she was watching in either German or English, but I found out there were other languages like Turkish, Italian, and Russian, and so on. So I thought, you know what? I said to my daughter, would you like to watch this movie in Italian? And she's like, yeah. So I'm like, okay, if she enjoys, you know, that's great. So it's also fun thing for her, right? Otherwise she wouldn't say yeah. So basically that's it. Like experiment.
Exactly.
See how the child reacts.
Because recently Yuka also told me that her daughter is now interested in learning Italian.
Right.
And even though she's not Italian, her husband's not Italian, how did it come to that? Like, how did she suddenly wake up and go, Mommy, I want to learn Italian? Because this is a really good story.
Right. So, like that, she was watching already some movies in Italian. But before that, I must say this. She loves Italian food, right? She likes pizza, pasta, and all the desserts and so on, margarita, etc. And we go to some Italian restaurant, and she's always talking to the waiters in Italian, right? Or at least trying to. And she already liked it this way. Maybe it came from the kindergarten recommendation that they said maybe your daughter could learn another language because it seems like she is really into languages. So I asked her, would you like to learn? And she said, absolutely, yes. And I said, what? Italian, you know? So I said, why not Spanish? Why not Chinese? Why not Arabic? Whatever. I said other languages, but she was so sure. I want to do Italian. So I said, okay, great. And then we found a school for her, you know.
So now she's on her 4th language at 5
just
years
for
old.
fun,
Amazing.
Yeah.
So Yuka also told me recently that she loves giving her daughter different types of opportunities. So can you tell us more about what kind of opportunities that you love giving to her?
Yes, sure. I think it's really important to set up the environment for the children. As in, for my daughter, it's been, for example, language setting is always English, German, and Japanese around her, because as a family we speak all of these languages. And her kindergarten is a bilingual one, English and German. And I take my daughter to the Japanese schools. So naturally she is exposed to all the languages, right? So this is part of like giving opportunity to my daughter, just setting up the environment like this. And so this is one thing. And also I think it's sometimes not so easy for children to find what their actual interests are.
Okay.
So they wouldn't probably wake up one day, I want to do baseball or I want to do ballet, you know, especially for younger one like my daughter. Yeah. So I think it's really important to expose them to different things. For example, languages and ballet, for example, sports, maybe art, etc. But at the same time, what's really important, I believe, is not to force them, not to make it like an obligation. Yeah. So one example is I said to my daughter, would you like to try ballet lesson? And she said, yeah. So we went, because she said yes, but then she was really shy. And I understand she was 4 and other kids were really actively, you know, participating. But my daughter was on the wall, you know, just watching.
I see.
And there, what I believe important is that you don't force her to participate. Because I see lots of parents actually letting the child really participate. No, you must go there, you must do it. You said yes. Yeah.
I relate to that. Like, if it happened to me, my grandmother would be like, we already paid for the lessons, you have to go and participate.
Yeah.
Which,
Of course, at some point, you know, at the higher age, you must take the responsibility. But for 4 years old, I don't think it's necessary yet. And I think this relates to I can do it feeling. Like if you don't want to do it on the first go, of course, as a small child, that should be accepted. And if you are forced, I think it lowers the efficacy of the child. Like, oh, you know, I'm not good enough. I'm not allowed to just watch. I'm forced to do something. I cannot do anything without being forced. And that's really not a good base for the child for the rest of the life, you know.
But so did she go back to the lessons already or not yet?
No, I mean we did this, and she said, well, I don't want to go back to this one.
Okay.
So I said, okay, maybe we can find another school, or we can wait, we can do something else. Yeah.
Because then she might change her mind on her own, and she could actually tell you when she's ready. Well, she is a very vocal child, and she could actually tell people like what she's really thinking. And how are you able to instill that in her, like to, you know, just be honest and tell people what is in your head? And she's very confident. She can just come up to anybody and then tell them how her day was. And this is something that I find really interesting because, you know, some children grew up to be very shy, and I think it's also very, very good when, you know, you're able to raise a child with confidence and these like important life skills. She's also very resilient, I find, because she, you know, she has friends, and of course there will be times when they don't get along well, but somehow it gets better later on, and she doesn't really take things like too hard. And I find that that's very important.
I see.
You know, growing up, there are so many challenges that you will face, and you have to be raising resilient children. And as someone who doesn't have kids, I know that if I have a child, that's something that I would want to instill to a daughter or a son.
I see.
So,
all right. I think the answer to that would be to create a safe space for your daughter or your child. Like for me, I would like to be the safe place for my daughter. That means I accept everything of her. You know, she may say something stupid, she may do something really not nice, she may hit you, she may do, you know, she could do all the wrong things in the world. But I believe a child must have a place where it's all okay. You know, that doesn't mean that I allow her to do this, but at first what I do is I listen to her. Okay, you did this. I don't like it. Mommy doesn't like it, but tell me please why you did it, right? And then she can open up and she can tell me everything. And first reaction from me is not scolding, right?
Yeah.
So first thing is understand, right? Okay, let everything out. And I say, okay, I understand. Oh, you have your own logic. That's why you did it. I understand. I accept you. This is a really important message, and this is a safe space for the child, right? And this done, then you move to the a bit like scolding part, like as a parenting part. Like, okay, I understand. I totally understand. This was not meant to be bad. Okay, may I share what I think? Is how it goes. And then I think, even though you thought it was right, maybe the other person was hurt, or maybe it hurt me, or whatever, So first thing, accept them. Then they feel safe to communicate, right? They feel safe to say everything in their head.
Yeah.
Just imagine if you say your honest feelings and the other person say, no, you shouldn't feel like that.
Oh my gosh,
Like,
so
this is
annoying.
wrong.
Why are you telling me how to feel?
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm sure it's harder for somebody who's small and it's like you're just learning all these things and you're being told that how you're feeling is wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
And would you say that this is your brand of discipline, like actually talking and letting her understand what she did wrong? And what is your view on like punishment? Would you tell her like, okay, now you have to write this 500 times, which I've done as a kid.
Okay.
I've done it.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. So how would you say you would discipline your daughter when, let's say, she did something that you really don't agree with?
Okay. So as to the punishment, I've never used one, and for me it's again really about the communication.
Yeah.
That my mindset is, me and my daughter, we can always understand each other. That's the standpoint, right? To start with. So I just talk to her, and then I think the important thing is that she can tell right and wrong on her own, not just being told by an adult, right? So how to do it, how to discipline. So she has done, let's say, something wrong in my perspective. Then I say, so you did this, what do you think about this? Is it nice, or is it bad? What do you think? And then 99.9% she knows exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't actually need to tell her. Maybe this is my coaching part,
Exactly. I was just about to say that you are like coaching her, and like she's really lucky to have you as a mom. Because personally, I've learned so much from Yuka. Like just being friends with her, I think sometimes her coaching techniques are applied to our friendship, and that has helped me improve so much. She's taught me, if you've seen my last video on how you could say no more effectively and in a nicer way without offending other people, a lot of those things I actually learned from her, because of course I was somebody who had a hard time saying no. And that's why when I see her daughter, sometimes I'm jealous because you can just say nope. And this is something that I think a lot of children would benefit from, in all honesty. But so another thing that you mentioned to me was that you also expose your daughter to different cultures and that you find this so helpful. So can you tell us more about that?
Oh yeah, sure. It also relates to what I've already covered, but say you give her opportunities to go to different type of schools. And other thing I do is setting up play dates with different people. Like for example, I do play dates for my daughter with English speaking friends, German speaking friends, and Japanese speaking friends, and then it's all fun for her, right? And without thinking about it, she's in a different setting, in different culture, different language, different attitude, different communication style and everything. So it's like really integrated in everyday life. Okay. Does it make sense?
It does. And also them being like children being exposed to just different types of people. I heard from another friend with a daughter, she would say that it makes them colorblind in a way that when you say color, like the color of your skin and like where someone is from.
Yeah.
And her daughters actually grew up in Switzerland, and we're also in a school where children are just from everywhere, all parts of the globe. And when they grew up in such an environment, they became so lucky to actually just have this mindset that everybody is the same. Whereas there are other people who are having a hard time, getting over prejudices or stereotypes.
Right.
Like third culture kids, I believe, are very lucky to live in such an environment.
I totally agree with you.
Exactly.
My daughter is in the kindergarten where the kids are coming from really everywhere, right? Every continent, I might say.
Especially in Berlin.
Berlin is already a very cosmopolitan place, so it's easy. Sure. So it just, for them, it doesn't mean much which color of skin, which country, which culture, etc. If at all, there's something, I'm afraid it's coming from the parents. At home, what's being said, right? So that's again the thing that you want to be probably a bit mindful to say what to say about certain cultures, because the children just absorb it like sponge.
And they tend to repeat it as well.
Exactly. Outside.
So personally, I really think that third culture kids are lucky.
Absolutely.
So lucky with all this exposure to different types of culture. And I know that you also love to travel with your daughter. So Yuka visits Japan a lot. Is it once or twice a year? So for not just for her work as a successful business and life coach, she also does it for leisure with her daughter. And you also go to your husband's country quite often.
Right.
So how does she react to all this? As you said, like giving her opportunities, and of course travel is such a great opportunity that not all children have.
Right.
But if you have a child who has such access to these sorts of things, like I think it's really great. And how does she react to it?
Right. Basically, she enjoys it so much, and she sees the differences. Maybe I because I point out like in Japan it's like this, but in Italy it was like this. So I point these things out sometimes, and about food, about people's behavior, etc. And I believe my daughter is starting to notice these differences, and I enjoy it.
And lastly, so Yuka, do you have any advice for women or even dads as well who are raising third culture kids, or even expat kids, just even parents with the same background but also just living in a different place from where the parents grew up in? So what's something that you would want to share to them? Maybe something that you learned yourself as a mom.
Okay, sure. I think what's quite important is your attitude toward your own culture and own language, right? So let's say the father come from this country and you come from this country, and you guys are living in another place, then you might start think, which language to take, which culture to take. But then don't forget that every culture is valued, right? And your culture too. And me being Asian or Japanese being Europe, sometimes you could forget about Japanese culture, because you need to really work on it, right? But there the important thing is your culture is also really important for your child, and you are proud of it, and then you like your culture, you want to share this culture with your children. Then of course the children would sense it even unconsciously, and probably start seeing that culture in a positive way, like this culture, my mom or my dad is so proud of it. It's maybe fun to also learn something else. So this is again giving the light, positive light to something. So but just in an opposite way, if you are not so proud of your culture, if you are feeling if my child doesn't know about my culture, that's okay, then of course the reality will follow, right?
It's so sad because these children already have this opportunity to just absorb everything from two different cultures. And I love what you said, that each culture is valued. Of course, like sometimes when you move abroad, and we have this expat class, these expat classes that sometimes you end up feeling like, oh, everything is so much better here. Because
Right.
when you're not
Yeah.
in your home country,
Mm.
sometimes you tend to focus on the negative.
Mhm.
And when you return, that's the only time that you would either see the positive light, the positive things
Mm.
in your country, but also it could go in a different route. Like
Mm.
sometimes you would be like, oh, everything is so much better there. And I think this type of mindset is very like detrimental to you just having a really good feeling towards your culture. So I really, really love what you said about that. And yeah, just giving the children the opportunity to really get to know you and your husband and like wherever you are.
Right.
So, because it is doable. Like her
Yeah.
daughter is just a perfect example of it. And she's not the only one. A lot of third culture kids are growing up this way. And yeah, it's making our world a lot more globalized, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Yuka, for coming and for being here. Of course, I will have her again. I will definitely have another video with Yuka wherein we will talk about, you know, something else. Like
Yeah.
maybe some of the things that she has taught me. Like I said, she's helped me so
yeah.
much. And yeah, for sure, we will be doing this again. So thank you so much for being here. I hope that you have a lovely day. Stay safe and yeah, see you soon. Bye.
Bye.